Hi Isaac, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm really, really good, especially because we've just sat giggling at each other for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm in a very good mood now, thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Brilliant. So how's your day going?
Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad, but now we're laughing, it feels a lot better.
Good, great. I'm happy to oblige.
Yeah.
Oh, fab. So I've met you, well, I met you on LinkedIn a few
Yes.
months ago now, I guess. Time flies,
I
doesn't it,
know.
really? But yeah, how did I first get to know you? I think you posted something and I was just like, oh my God, I relate so much and I want to hear more about this. So I got in touch with you and we started chatting. And then I was straight into the voice notes because I love a voice note.
Yes.
Yeah, and the rest is history. So would you like to start by sort of introducing yourself and just give us a little summary about yourself?
Oh gosh, how long do we have?
An hour and a half.
Oh, right, okay.
No, as long as it takes.
Yeah. 2 hours then.
Yeah.
So my name's Isaac Harvey. I was born with a disability called limb pelvic hypoplasia, which means I have no arms and short legs. I have a weak pelvis, so I'm not able to walk. And I have scoliosis, which is the curvature of the spine. And that's been corrected by metal work. And I have grown up in East London, where I've had very supportive friends and family who have always encouraged me to be the best version of myself.
Awesome.
And never really told me, no, you can't do this. We want you to do this. And if I have a crazy idea like skydiving, they're all for it. Um, so yeah, that's really helped me have this mindset that I find it easy to overcome obstacles with my disability. But the biggest challenge I had was dealing with my mental health, because I was known as Isaac who's done skiing, Isaac who's done a skydive, as I've mentioned, and because of that persona which was given to me, I kind of had to. I felt that I had to live up to that level, and never really show that I wasn't feeling great. So I was always putting this mask on, saying I'm happy all the time, and never really honest with my audience, which meant I wasn't really being honest with myself, and I had that really vicious cycle. And it just got to a breaking point where I took a step back. I wanted to learn about the minds and mindset and mental health and things like that. And that's when I started learning about the law of attraction, how we think, feel, and speak is the reality that we create. And that kind of completely changed my perception on things. And here we are, still smiling and getting on with life, really. So, yeah.
That's amazing. You totally reframed things for yourself then. Yeah. And what? Just out of interest, what age were you when you had this realization, when everything changed?
About 3 years ago when I was 23. So
Wow.
recently.
Yeah, there's so much for me to unpack in what you've just said.
Oh yeah, so there's a lot more.
I've got so many questions. But yeah, it's I think that what you've just mentioned there is something that I mean, the mental health side of things, a lot of people can really, really relate to.
Yeah.
And I really, really admire the way that you sort of took control of it and were like, right, I need to take a step back. I need to control things. I need to, have more, more of an active sort of a role in my own mental health going forward. That's something that a lot of people can relate to, I think. Maybe not the breaking point, although a lot of people have experienced that during the pandemic, but it takes a lot of courage to be so open about this, because there's still such a taboo, especially for a young man, there's still such a taboo about mental health and, getting therapy and admitting that you maybe need some help. That's really difficult for a lot of people to do, isn't it?
It's one of those things where, a lot of people, like I would take to online and show like I was upset and things, which again wasn't good. Like I was putting out negative into the world, which is what was coming back to me. And I would have lots of friends and family who would try and support me and help me, but I was kind of blinded by their positivity, because I was so like negative. I was like, oh, what you're telling me is wrong. I don't need to be hearing this positive nonsense.
Yeah.
And I feel the real change was when I want to make the change. And I think that's kind of, when I finally turned around my mindset about things, I had a friend contact me who was going through the same thing, and it's quite relatable of everything that she was going through. It was a totally different situation, but it's kind of like the same principles of she didn't want to listen to me, and I was stubborn like she was, and stuff like that. So I think it's for you to make that step to make the change.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think there can be many, many different ways in our lives that we lack the tools that we need until you actually get real with yourself and you say, right, okay, I need to address this. But, the negativity, the not listening to people, being stubborn, these are all coping mechanisms that people use when they're scared of what's the other side of the change, the big change. But I think that it's not necessarily a good thing to compare yourself with other people, but really just to try and improve in yourself day by day and just sort of move forward in that way. But having said that, having gone through it, having been there, understanding how difficult it can be and understanding the highs and lows of going through your own mental health journey, it does enable you to be there for other people in a way that you wouldn't be otherwise. So fair play to you for being there for your friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's good that we have like doctors who talk about it, but a lived experience is much more powerful than reading a textbook and stuff like that, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, I've read quite a lot of books about mindset and about things such as healing your inner child other things like that. Some things I've related to more than others. But when you get the thing that works for you, when you go, yes, okay, that's really helping, then it's completely, whatever that is, whether it's the law of attraction or whether it's something else entirely, then explore it, go through it. It may be comforting in that moment, but you'll normally learn a lot from it. For me, the author who has just been the most amazing influence on me is Brene Brown.
Okay.
She's absolutely incredible. I don't know, have you read anything by Brene Brown?
No, I haven't. I'm more of a visual and listening rather than reading.
Okay, cool. So I'll recommend a TED Talk of hers for you to watch if you want it.
Perfect.
So there's one thing that is central to who I am as an English teacher, and it's something that all of our team members actually have in common, and that's that we believe in a growth mindset. So wherever you are right now is fine. If you want to improve, you don't have to be so hard on yourself in order to move forward step by step. There are a lot of elements to growth mindset that really are quite difficult in today's world with the internet, comparing yourself with other people and maybe feeling a bit jealous of what they've got going on.
I've been there.
How much do we all struggle with that? Social media, hello. But if you try and sort of focus on yourself, on your own growth rather than comparing yourself with other people, that's really fundamental to learning anything really. So that sounds like something you've got a lot of experience with.
Yeah, I mean, I could give an example of me comparing myself. So I'm also a video editor, so I've been doing that for about 9-10 years now, where I use the computer with my feet to edit videos. And when I left school, I made sure I said to myself, I'm going to be doing my own thing. So I didn't want to go down like TV production routes or anything like mainstream media. I wanted to just create my own content. So I started making YouTube vlogs, showcasing all the things I would get up to and behind the scenes of things, and I'd go really silly with the edits and make music, and silly memes would be added, and it was
Brilliant.
a whole load of craziness. If you watch back at them, it's kind of cringe-worthy, but
I've seen a couple of them. Yeah, they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant.
no, but have you seen the really old ones?
No, not really old ones, no. A few months ago, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet I'm going to now. Going into the back catalogue.
Well, good luck with that.
I'll give you some feedback.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I won't.
And I just loved it because it was like I could be creative, and I was showing people what I can do, and then people would say, "Oh, I feel the videos be more powerful if you spoke about disability," and I would always say, "Oh, I don't really want to talk about my disability because I just want to show I'm having a good time. Like, why should I mention that?" But it's when I started doing talks in places, the impact I was giving people about disability and overcoming challenges and things. So I kind of started incorporating it in the videos, still with the memes and things to make it engaging and funny. And then I don't know what happened, but I kind of started comparing myself to other famous people, because I would spend like 2 weeks on a video and I would only get like 20 to 40 views, and I thought, oh, I'm spending all this time and I'm not getting much viewership. So I'd kind of take a lot of inspiration from other YouTubers, and it wouldn't work, and it was just kind of unmotivating me a lot, which was a bit of a shame, because you know, I started out doing it because I loved it, and then eventually I kind of stopped making YouTube videos, and I went down the route of what I didn't want to do and start doing freelance and doing videos for other people, which I wanted to just kind of get a different take on video editing and get my mind out of there.
Experience.
Which I did enjoy, but it was much later down the line, I think 2019 or end of 2018, I saw a video on YouTube of a guy basically saying, you know, everyone in the world is unique, and what they put out into the world is, what everyone puts out into the world is unique, and it's your content. So if one person sees it, that's 1 out of 1 million people who've seen your content, and the million have missed out on it. So it's kind of seeing it the other way around.
Yeah.
And then when I heard that, I was like, oh, well, yeah, gosh, that's really, and I feel more, it makes more sense to see it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
But by then I kind of lost motivation for YouTube, so I kind of just kept that mindset into just doing content online, and once I started figuring out the views, that's when they started to come and getting the engagement and things.
I bet you were being more authentic then when that happened, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah, that's when I started seeing the growth and people really engaging with my content again.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a rite of passage, you know, when you start out in a new field, you've got to you learn from other people, and to a certain extent maybe you're copying them or you're emulating them in order to figure out what is you and what is them. So I think that's a natural part of the process, and that's why you often see a lot of people putting out the same content as other people, because they haven't yet found their own voice. But the ones who are successful are the ones who find a way to find their voice and be themselves. Yes. When you're being yourself, people are really drawn to that authenticity, aren't they? And that's when you start to find your tribe and attract people who generally are a good influence in your life. And I think that's the process I've been on in the last year as well, because I've focused mainly on LinkedIn. Yeah. But I remember many years ago, everyone's had this experience, but many years ago, uploading my CV to LinkedIn and just being like, this is the, most boring thing in the world. But then a little while ago, about just over a year ago, someone said to me, LinkedIn's different now, you should probably give it another try.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, maybe. So I went on there, and I think the first person I saw was Leah Turner. And she's like covered in tattoos, blonde hair, just like 100% sass. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is totally different to what I was doing before. So, then I saw Luke Manton, who's just the most amazing person ever. And just a load of people who I was like, I want to be in a pub with these guys. I want to just sit and chat with these guys. I want them to be my friends, So, I started to get into it then. But I had the same experience that you were talking about there. It was like, okay, well, that's working for them. Maybe I'll try a little bit of that. No, that didn't work. Tumbleweeds. And then I'll try something else. No, still no one's responding to this. But then I took a course actually from Leah Turner, and she was talking about being yourself and being authentic and everything. So I was like, just going to do that. Just going to just be me. And I did. And then people were like, hi, Lorraine, how you doing? Like, it's true.
I know.
It's so good. So, yeah, man. I think that's how you meet people that you really want to talk to.
I mean, I have a funny LinkedIn story. Kind of how you kind of started. So, for years, people would say, I need to join LinkedIn. And I would always say, why do I need a professional Facebook? Why do I need to go on there? It doesn't make sense. Because I'd been on Facebook and Instagram for many, many years, and they would have highs and lows with engagement, but it never really, there was nothing really genuine about it. And, most people just like it or just do fire emojis because of a good image. Nothing to do with the caption.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was after a while, like a lot of people were saying, yeah, you need to join LinkedIn. So I thought, okay, I'll just do it. But my main focus was, because I'd been doing Wheels and Wheelchairs for 3 years and became the president in 2020, I thought, okay, I'm just going to join and share mainly Wheels and Wheelchairs. So I started doing that, and then I started to see quite a lot of engagement. And then I started talking about my life, and that's when it kind of just blew up, really. Like, loads of engagement, people wanted to connect with me. First time, 3 times that I've gone viral on LinkedIn, which is crazy compared to other platforms. And I've done this in just over a year on LinkedIn. And even some of the connections I've made now is like, when I tell them I've only been on for like such a short period of time, they say, how did you do it? And I say, I don't know.
Whatever it is, it's working.
I know it's my main platform. I don't really post on the others now.
Yeah. I mean, the ROI, sorry to be your business for a second, but the ROI on LinkedIn is just like insane. It's only like second to TikTok. I'm not really into TikTok. I'll look at it, from time to time if I'm like having a lazy day in bed. I'm just like, okay. But I'm not really that. Well, I'll get there. It just takes me a while, I think. But I think the most important thing is that if you're sharing stuff online, it's got to add value for people, right?
Yes.
If you're just sort of saying what you're thinking, then that will get you so far, but it's not really going to be attracting your tribe kind of thing much, as far as I know. But yeah, if you're adding value to people, you're bringing them something really useful or funny or, something engaging, like you say, then that's how you do it. That's the way I'm trying to do it anyway.
And also with LinkedIn, before LinkedIn, I thought I've been living in a bubble, because the amount that I've learned from people and especially like the disability community, what people are doing, like the adaptive fashion world, I didn't even know about adaptive fashion before joining LinkedIn. I didn't know about DEI people within the workplace. I'll be honest, I didn't know anything like that. my eyes just were open to a whole new world of people and things that have been done. I was like, wow, where have I been living?
Yeah, but that's wonderful, isn't it? That you get to learn so much. Yeah, I've learned so much from LinkedIn as well. Yeah, I met someone called Spencer through LinkedIn. I don't know if you know Spencer Collins, but he's really vocal in all kinds of disability circles, and he's an absolutely fantastic guy. He was born deaf, and he's lived his whole life doing so many different jobs, so many roles. He was a DJ. He's been in D&I for ages, and he reached out to me because on my little profile video it had subtitles on it, and he was just like, Lorraine, thank you. And I was like, what did I do? And he was like, thank you for putting subtitles on it, because it's amazing how many people do not do that. And I was like, I didn't even really think about it. Every video I make, I put subtitles on it, thanks to my teacher leader. She's a director of studies. She's all about accessibility. She's always making sure our website is as accessible as possible and all of that stuff. It's something that brings us all together as a team. We're all interested in diversity and inclusion. We've got a diverse team of people, it's a right mixed bag, and it's lovely. And we're much, much better for it. So a couple of years ago, we created a course about diversity and inclusion for English learners so that they could learn the lingo. And that's been very eye-opening. But I've met so many more people through LinkedIn that have taught me a lot about it as well. But the inspiration behind that course was that I had a student who was talking to me one day, and he was telling me about somebody in the office who's transgender. And this student of mine didn't want to start a conversation in case he said something wrong. And I get it, right? We've all been there, not knowing what to say, or not wanting to make a mistake, not wanting to offend someone, really. But it was such a shame that he wasn't able to talk with his teammate because he was so worried about this. So, we were working on the different language to use, and generally it's all about asking questions like, what do you want to be referred to as? And, tell me about your experience or something, and what pronouns do you use, that kind of thing. So it was a huge relief for my student to be able to have the language to have a chat with this person, because he realised he wasn't talking because he didn't want to offend them, but then not talking to them was offending them. So he was like, oh, I'm stuck. So after that, I did a podcast with a friend of mine called Alyssa, who's in London. She's a D&I consultant. And it was like one of those podcasts where after 2 hours, you're still like, but I've got so many more questions to ask you. Like, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. So, I think that it's great that the language is evolving. It's great that people are learning so much more about it now. From your point of view as a 26-year-old, how have you noticed the landscape changing recently in the way that people can talk to you about your disability or not talking to you about your disability? This is the main thing, because so much of it is about what you can't do, but I'm sure you want to focus on what you can do. So talk to us a little bit about that, and from your perspective, how would you like people to talk to you, and what questions would you like them to ask and things like that?
Well, one thing I've realised is, everyone's different and everyone sees it differently, because, I prefer language such as person with disability, others like disabled. But it's one of those things where everyone's going to be different and language is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
So we just have to ask what people prefer, and not say, look, this is how you refer to people with disabilities by having this one category, or people within the LGBT community. We gotta just respect the individual and what they want to be called. And it's after what you were saying, I was gonna say, it's one of those things where I believe where us as individuals, so for example, like people within the disability community, we have as much responsibility as the people who are wanting to learn, because there's people in probably every community where they get it wrong. Oh, I hate you. I don't want to speak to you. And they tell the people off. And it's like, how can you tell someone off if they genuinely don't know? We got to educate people in a constructive way.
Meet them where they are and help them to improve.
Yeah, and be nice about it, because, I always say the story where I was in Waterloo Station to get to the lift to the platform, and I get in the lift and a woman comes in. This was before the pandemic and things, and she comes in and she says to me, "Oh, excuse me, do you mind if I come in the lift with you?" And I thought this was a really weird question in my head. I thought, why are you asking this? I said, yeah, of course. And she said, oh, it's because the person before in a wheelchair said, oh no, he doesn't allow anyone else to share a lift with him. And you could see by the way she was talking, it was like, I guess a bit of a rude encounter. And it's like, that's not how you teach people, and that's not how you speak to people. Because, that woman might have been scared to even speak to me because of that one experience,
Yeah.
And I feel that's with anyone in any community. If you have one bad experience, you feel like the whole, or subconsciously at least, you might feel everyone's like that. And I feel, we have the responsibility to help others by helping us,
But then equally, you can understand why that person, maybe if that person's had a bad day with people being inconsiderate and just, it's understandable that he or she was just a little bit aggressive. I always think, obviously it would be great if we could all speak to one another with respect and consideration, but that's not the way the world works, unfortunately.
Sadly,
so I completely relay, I completely agree. You should explain things nice and calmly, but we've all had those days where we're just like, for God's sake, I don't want to have to explain this for the 57th time today, can you just leave me alone? We all have bad days, but someone once said to me, how did it go? Don't attribute something to malice when you can attribute it to stupidity or ignorance or something like that. Because a lot of people they are the way they are. They're aggressive, they're rude to other people. But most of the time, it's not because they're trying to upset you. It's because often they're a bit ignorant, or they're a bit insecure, or they're having a bad day, or, they just don't understand things and they don't want to understand things, And once I understood that concept, I was like, oh, so these people who always commenting on your posts, trying to bring you down or telling you what to do or just attacking you in general, sometimes it's so vicious. But I just think to myself, wow, that person's having a really bad day, and try not to take it personally. But that's how I think
it's one of those things where, I believe it's something going on in their life for them to do that. And usually what people say into the world is a reflection on themselves. And it's it's very difficult to have that reasoning mind, especially if it's like a split second thing, like someone's rude to you. It's like, okay, I'm gonna react to that without thinking. But I think as humans we need to start responding rather than reacting, which is not always easy, but I think it's one of those things where you have to train yourself to learn how to do that. I've been doing a lot of learning about this kind of stuff. So.
I could tell. That was a really nice way of explaining it there. We need to start responding instead of reacting. I'm like, yes, Isaac. Soundbite.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I don't need to do anymore
now.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. There's my clip for LinkedIn tomorrow. Nailed it. Thank you. Ah, brilliant. So earlier you were talking about wheels and wheelchairs. I want you to tell us more about that, because I know you've got a really exciting event coming up very soon. So can you tell us firstly what it is? Because I've seen some amazing 360 videos of this, and I'm going to share this with the episode. What is it, and what have you got coming up?
So it's wheelchair users getting pushed by roller skaters or rollerbladers
Awesome.
at sometimes high speed, and we do that in London, Battersea Park every Saturday, and then on a Sunday we do it on the streets of London with a marshalled skate with about 200 other skaters.
That's
And
brilliant.
yeah, so
That's
it's
amazing.
it's a whole load of fun, really. And as it's leading up to Easter Sunday, we're going to be doing a Easter skate where people dress up in bunny outfits and anything to do with Easter, which actually was my first ever street skate all the way back in 2019.
Wow.
And I
cool.
joined, yeah.
Amazing. So, and what are you going to dress up as?
I'm going to be dressing up with a pink bunny top with has ears on it.
Amazing. Absolutely brilliant. I can just imagine that feeling of belonging to not only to an amazing team. Like, it's always really lovely to be in a team of people who are all, you know, really passionate and enthusiastic, but moving at high speed through the streets of London, that's so badass. That's amazing. Who thought of this? Was this your creation, or did you come in as a president later?
So lots of people think I'm the founder whenever I say that I'm the president, and it's like I can't take that credit. It wasn't me.
No.
So the story goes all the way back to 2012, when a French group who had been doing this for 10 years prior to 2012, and for the 10th anniversary, they wanted to roller skate from Paris all the way to London for the opening of the Paralympic Games.
Wow.
So they knew how to get to the border of France, but from the border of England to get to the Olympic Park, they needed help. So they contacted London skaters, who gave help to how to do it.
Wow.
And when they had arrived, all the skaters were like, "Wow, we need to do something here." And that's when Wheels and Wheelchairs was born.
Awesome.
And then I was introduced to it at the end of 2018, where have you heard of Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park?
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I went there and I went on the ice rink with my wheelchair, and one of the ice marshals came up to me and we just started chatting, and he said, "Oh, would you be interested in wheelchair roller skating?" I thought, I've never heard of this before, but yes,
But
please.
yeah, sign me up. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it just sounded really out there because, you know, prior to this, I'd done skiing and tall ship sailing and other adventurous activities. So, you know, roller skating was something that I just never thought was possible. And yeah, I ended up going for my first time, and I absolutely loved it. That I went the week after, which is then when I did the Easter skate.
You were hooked.
And then I just went every week, really, and really enjoyed it. And then I went to France. I did it with the Paris skaters.
Oh, the OGs.
I took part in the Paris Marathon.
Wow.
Before we started recording, went to Istanbul as well and did the half marathon.
Yeah, I was asking you about that earlier, wasn't I? Missed one of the main points though.
Yes.
Moving swiftly on. No, how was your experience in Istanbul though? You mentioned that it was great but also difficult in some ways.
I mean, culturally, it's really interesting. It's fascinating getting to go to the mosques and seeing the old town and going through the bazaars where there's like 4,000 shops and people wanting to buy their goods. One guy really wanted to sell me his carpet. I was like, no, I don't want any carpet. But yeah, it was really good that way, but when it came to accessibility, it wasn't great. Like steps to get into the mosques, and there was no such thing as an accessible taxi. It was a hail and ride, fold up your wheelchair and get in the cab and go, really. And cobbled streets, pavements being really steep. And as I was saying to you earlier, if I was in my electric wheelchair, it would have been a pretty impossible task. But you know, we did it with smiles on our faces.
Yeah, you did.
There was group of 11 of us, and we just go on with it, really.
Excellent.
And we enjoyed the experience.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I've learned a lot about sort of public accessibility through a friend of mine, Scott Whitney. He and I did a challenge in January. Do you know Scott? Yeah. He and I did a challenge to raise money for the Brain charity. I talked to you about the Brain charity before, didn't I? I think it's in the north of England only, though, so not down in London near you. But they do so much for so many people, mainly because in Scott's case, for example, he had a lot of symptoms. He was in a wheelchair, but only recently, after many months, was he diagnosed. So because he didn't have a diagnosis, the Brain charity was like, it's okay, we'll look after you. So they were like, come and join us, it's fine. The more the merrier. So he was really grateful for all the help that they gave him. It's just such an amazing charity, I think. But yeah, I mean, I know there is a huge lack of awareness when it comes to accessibility. For example, Scott mentioned he went to the pharmacy to collect his medication, and he couldn't get in because there wasn't a ramp there outside of a pharmacy, and but for people like myself, who I'm able-bodied, and I hadn't really thought about it much before, I started to notice these things everywhere. Notice all of these stairs when there wasn't any other way of getting up somewhere, and other things like that. And I just thought to myself, more needs to be done, but it's not just the responsibility of people who need these facilities to do the work. It's a responsibility of all of us to make sure that the world is more accessible. What's your point of view on that?
I've had really bad experiences when it's come to accessibility, and really good experiences. And I feel, but it's one of those things where I am very grateful to where we are, because I remember 20 years ago, I couldn't even get on the bus because there were steps onto the bus. Trains were huge steps up. It was like climbing Mount Everest. And, I just didn't use public transport for ages. Until I was about 8, me and Mum used to take taxis everywhere, because using public transport was just impossible. And then because of that, when I eventually was able to use the bus, it was such a big new thing. It was like a big fear. I got onto the bus for the first time, and I remember being in my manual chair because I didn't have electric for a while. I got on the bus and my chair would slide all over the place even when the brakes were on, and that would scare me so much. I was like, gosh, I don't want to get on the bus anymore.
No, understandably.
But Mum kept having me on, and I went on every so often, and I got used to it. And then I got my electric chair, and then it was back from square one again, where I had to relearn it again, because my electric chair would then slide, and it was actually like I was kind of independent, being able to go out and things. So I had to take a long time to learn that.
Get used to it,
but now I can get on the bus myself, and like when I go to Battersea, I get on the bus myself. I go to a station, and Transport for London are really good. I can speak to them and say, look, I want to get to Victoria, and they call ahead, and they call the station. Like they call the station ahead, where I met off the train, and I have assistance all the way. And it's very rare that it messes up, but it's really good initiative. And like I said, you gotta be grateful for things like that. London's not perfect, but it's getting there, and it's a lot better than what it was. And I think we really gotta be thankful for the London Olympics coming here, because that's when they really made the change.
A lot of investment then to try and make it more accessible. Good. That's interesting. But you were saying actually it was the post where I first got to know you, when I first saw that, and I was like, oh, I need to talk to him. You were talking about there being a lack of help, a lack of facilities available to people. And I wanted to. This is the whole inspiration behind, getting you on the video podcast, and
Okay.
And asking you, what do you need? How do you envisage a solution to the current challenges that you're having? What would you like to be created from this conversation?
It's one of those things where all of these things are easy as long as you have the right people who are helping you. So, for example, a social worker is meant to give you the support that you need, but I don't know why they've done this, but now they do duty social workers.
Okay.
So before I used to have someone who would know my needs and you would really get to know them, but now it's whoever's in the office that day, which means they don't know who you are really, and you can get some really funny ones where they're quite rude and they're not very helpful. And it's one of those things where I have a friend who's a wheelchair user, and he always says in most of our meetings it's a constant fight for people with disabilities, and it shouldn't really be like that.
No.
We should be having the support that we need to live life. So I mean, for me, I've got myself a lot of hats, so I do a lot of different things because my brain's very creative and I like to do different things, but because of that I'm having to do everything solo. And the help that I really would need is a personal assistant, where I could have that flexibility of, if I'm having an event in London, I could stay in London rather than coming all the way back home to then sometimes having to go out early again the next day to go somewhere else. That flexibility would make things a whole lot easier. There's also times where I have the opportunity to go abroad or do an event somewhere, and because most of my life I've had to rely on friends and family. They are very helpful, but as you can imagine, most of them work and they don't always have the free time. So that means if they're not free, that means I can't go.
And you want to be
so it means
independent, make your own decisions.
Yeah.
So,
Because I can do half a day by myself. I can go to London and stuff, but that also means that I can't drink water. I'm not able to use the toilet, have any food, or get out of my chair to rest my legs. So I'm kind of stuck in my chair to do things, which is fine, because usually if I'm doing half a day, I'm usually going to meet people, and whoever I'm meeting is quite helpful. And there's a lot of people I've turned into carers, really, because I have friends who've never really done it before, but once they've done it once, they're happy to do it again. So I do have a pool of people, but I need that constant help.
Official.
Official and kind of like a long-term thing, rather than I need to ask 5 people if they're free this weekend or whatever.
That's really interesting that the social workers now are just sort of like on a duty basis. So you don't get to build a relationship with them. They don't get to learn your preferences. It's just standard care. But I suppose a lot of services have been affected by the pandemic, and obviously funding is short. But there's also
this was before the pandemic.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. But there's also Brexit has also caused a lot of care workers and other people to leave the country as well, hasn't it? We're working on a big project at the moment to try and help healthcare workers who are coming from another country to work in the UK, either in the NHS or one of the many different care roles in the country, to learn English and pass the exams, because not a lot of people know, but just after Brexit came in 2017, they changed the requirements for English language exams to get a visa in the UK. And nurses, all healthcare workers now need to get a band 7. So just to put that in perspective, a lot of native speakers can't reach that level. And it's a band 7 in the IELTS exam, so that's the same level to get an MBA in to get on an MBA program at Warwick University, for example. Like it's a high level. It doesn't look like that's going to be decreased anytime soon, so we're looking at a solution where we can help those people learn English in a really achievable or accessible way, so that they can get those visas sooner, and hopefully that will have an effect on the amount of resources that are available, not just to people who need urgent care, but for people who want a more sort of structured routine and have some help that way, because there are many people who are really keen to come here, valuable, wonderful, trained people, so it's one of our objectives to help them to get here as much as we can,
because it's a shame there's so many barriers to allow skilled people to work and show off their talents. I mean, like, it's not really the same sort of thing, but I mean, why do people have to get a new driving license once they've learned it in their own country? I don't, I know like the roads are different and stuff, but to do the whole process again, I think it's just crazy to me. Like, if they could drive, they can drive,
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
That's exactly it. I don't understand why it's so difficult. I mean, a lot of people will be working in their own country, whether that's an Eastern European country, an African country, maybe an Asian country, wherever it is, and they've worked their way up in their healthcare role, for example. They're qualified, they're experienced, they're really good at their job. And then if they do eventually get to the UK, then they're given a really low-level job just because they are not from here. And it's
back to square one.
It's not fair, but it's also really silly. Like it's short-sighted. Yeah. Like they could be doing so much more good in a role that suits them and their expertise. But unfortunately, there's many systematic improvements that need to be made. So yeah, we're working hard to get that done at the moment. I've just applied for a government grant for one particular project that we're working on, but it's all funding, isn't it? At the end of the day, it all comes down to money.
Funding, grants, it's a lot.
Yeah, too much. You mentioned earlier, so we were talking about your 360 videos. How do you make them? What is it? Is it a drone? Like, how does this work?
So I got into 360 editing actually from the skating, because I would see a lot of skaters on Instagram do these really cool videos, and I thought, how are they doing that? And then I realized it was a 360 camera.
Okay.
And it's really interesting how it works, because it's on a selfie stick, and then it gets rid of the stick that you're holding, so then it looks like it looks like a drone basically.
Yeah.
And then within the editing software, you can just choose where you want it to point at that certain moment, and then you just stitch it together really.
Wow,
because
cool.
Years ago, you would have to have like 6 different cameras, and then you would have to stitch it together, but now it's like all in the one camera.
Brilliant.
But yeah, it's quite fascinating. It takes a long time to edit, and it's a lot on the computer, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, you could teach me a few things. When I was doing thank you, Isaac. I was doing this challenge with Scott in January, and I got into the habit of doing a little video just on LinkedIn to sort of encourage people to donate to the Brain charity. And a few people were like, "Hey Lorraine, I'm loving the daily sweaty updates." Like, make it sound so glamorous. Thanks. But I was like red-faced and just like, please donate to this charity. Brilliant. Oh, well, it's been so nice to chat with you, Isaac. Is there anything else you want to share before we finish up today?
Oh, I thought we were going to talk for another 45 minutes.
Oh, you can do. You can give us your life story. I was only joking, but go ahead. When I was 5.
When I was a young boy.
Yes, back in the day. Maybe we'll save that for part 2.
Oh yeah, next month. Yeah. This is monthly now. Yeah,
It's a daily thing now, Isaac. Yeah, this is breakfast TV with Lorraine and Isaac.
Same time tomorrow.
Oh, brilliant! Tune in, folks. Oh, fab.
No, I think it's been good getting to finally speak to you, and thanks for your help and support on my posts. And I think with LinkedIn, it's like everyone that I've been talking to is just like a friend out of nowhere, and it's kind of like that instant friendship that you don't usually get if it's done other ways. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Keep on just being you. I mean, I was gonna say keep on inspiring people, but it's all of it that matters. It's inspiring people, but it's also being real and being honest about the challenges and the struggles, and also the gratitude and helping other people whilst being helped as well. It's that's what we need more of, like authentic, real content that shines a light on an experience that maybe people wouldn't necessarily have a view on otherwise. So yeah, keep on doing it, and I'm going to support you in any way I can, Isaac.
Oh, thank you. And I think that's the beauty of LinkedIn is people being real on there. You don't really get that on any other social media platforms. You might get it on an Instagram post, but who clicks to read more on Instagram anyway?
I don't.
Most people don't. So I feel, you can really build authentic relationships, and there's a lot more honesty and people wanting to work with each other, which is great. So thanks for all the people pushing me to get to LinkedIn as well. So. And the next step is actually meeting in person. That's always it was a bit weird the first time I met people from LinkedIn in person, but now I love it. I think it's amazing. Cool. It's super cool. I love it. So man, I'll have to do that next time I'm in London. Or if I come up to you.
Yeah, if you come up to Edinburgh, lots of cobbles up here, but I mean it's
right.
there are be warned, but it's an absolutely brilliant city, Isaac. You'll love it. So come on up here and I'll show you around.
Yeah, we'll have to do an in-person podcast.
Yeah, man. With a 360 video. I'll get my skates on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll do it all in one go.
Why not?
An Easter outfit, yep.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. That bunny hoodie. I can't wait to see the bunny hoodie.
Well, you'll see it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Take care, my friend. No Look after yourself. Bye-bye. Bye. It's your fault. Right.
Take 10,000.
Yeah. Right. Hi.
Hello.
You're making me laugh.
Oh, sorry.
Oh dear. Okay, I'm starting.
Yep. Perfect.
Right.